Okay, guys, I hope you're doing good. And you're keeping socially distant. I miss you guys a lot. And I hope to see you guys very soon. Maybe hopefully in September. All right. If this thing dies down, but stay safe. Remember to wash your hands a lot. And yeah, I miss you. Okay, so we're gonna start chapter 14. And chapter 14 looks at public goods and tax policy. So far we've been studying private free markets, but as economists, right, and as people learning economics, we know markets are not too efficient. We did see the issues with externalities, right? And take an example, the issue of monopolies and debt weight loss, right? So all successful economies are made up of private and public production to basically meet their needs, okay? Right, and we're going to be looking at public goods and tax policy, right? So our main focus is looking at public goods and looking at the market for public goods. Okay, so again, I'll go through the learning objectives. I want you guys to focus on the learning objectives, okay, for this chapter. Right, so we look at the first learning objective, and we're going to look at the concept of rivalry and excludability. So you need to actually understand what rivalry means. Okay, again, you need to understand what excludability actually means, right? And these in turn will help us distinguish between private goods. Okay, so you need to know how to differentiate between private goods, public goods, collective goods, and finally, common goods. Okay, so that is our main objective for the chapter. Okay, understand rivalry and excludability, right? Find the differentiation or find the differences between private goods, public goods, collective goods, and common goods. Okay, our second learning objective is basically to find the optimal quantity of a public good and describe the ways in which private firms can basically supply public goods. Okay, so is government providing too much public goods or services? What is the optimal amount of public goods that government should provide? Is the optimal amount equal to zero? If private companies can supply public goods, do we actually need a government then? Okay, so those are a few things we need to think about, and that is explained in learning objective number 2. When learning objective number 3, we look at the efficiencies and inefficiencies that are actually associated with the provision of public goods. So what is good about the government actually supplying public goods, and what is bad about the government actually supplying public goods, okay? And finally, we look at the whole concept of taxation, right, and how taxation can actually promote efficiency. Okay, so to actually understand public goods, the first thing we need to look at is the government. We sort of need to understand the government, right? So government is basically different from private institutions in the sense that the government has the ability to tax people, unlike private institutions, right? So the government can actually tax people and get revenue in that way. Okay, the government can also draft people in the military, for example. The government can imprison people who actually break the law. Okay, so it's distinct from private institutions. So that's what we actually need to understand and try and answer these questions. What goods and services should the government actually provide? Okay, what is the optimal amount of goods and services the government should provide? But most importantly, what type of goods and services should the government provide? Okay, how should they raise revenue to actually pay for these goods and services? How should the government actually raise revenue to pay for them? Should they actually adopt a regressive form of taxation, proportional tax, sales tax, progressive taxation, indirect taxes, direct taxes, right, corporate taxes? How should the government raise revenue to pay for the goods it wants to supply? Okay, what is the optimal quantity of goods the government should provide? And should we live in a decentralized or centralized government? Okay. So at this moment, I want you to think of what goods and services does the government provide? Okay. So try and write a list of goods and services, right, that the government basically provides, and see if you actually have a long list or see whether you actually have a short list, right? And that give you a sense of how big government is in public life or basically in society. Okay, right? And majority of these goods and services the government tends to provide are called public goods. Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking at next. Okay, so what are public goods? Okay, so think of a public good as any good that is what we call both non-rival and non-excludable. Okay, so a public good is a good that is non-rival and also non-excludable. Okay, so what does it mean to be non-rival and what does it mean to be non-excludable? non-excludable. Okay, so a non-rival good is a good, right, where one whose consumption, or is a good where consumption by one person does not diminish its availability to others. Okay, so is a good whose consumption by one person does not diminish its availability to others. Okay, so a non-rival good is where my consumption of that good does not prevent someone else from using it. Okay, so my consumption or your consumption of the good does not actually prevent someone else from using that good. Okay, so a good example is a national park. Okay, a good example is a national park, right? Going to the national park does not, or me going to the national park does not actually prevent anyone else from going to the national park. Okay, so a good example is a national park, right? Me consuming the good does not prevent anyone else from consuming the good. Okay, can you think of any other examples? Okay, so for example, you listening to this lecture, right, does not actually prevent someone else from listening to the lecture. Okay, so that is a non-rival good. Okay, you consuming this good on YouTube does not prevent someone else from actually consuming the same good. Okay, right, so examples, we have national defense. Okay, so me getting protected by the government does not prevent someone else not getting protected by the government. Okay, we actually all enjoy national defense and defense from the military. Okay, economics lectures. Okay, so you listening to this lecture does not prevent anyone else from actually listening to the lecture as well, and that is a non-rival good. And then we have a non-excludable good. Okay, so a non-excludable good is one that is difficult or costly to exclude non-payers from consuming. Okay, right, so it's difficult to prevent or exclude non-payers from using it. Okay, so lots of people can actually use it. You can basically use it for free. You don't necessarily need to actually pay for the good to actually use it. Okay, right, so that is the whole idea of non-excludable good. Okay, so we have over-the-air broadcast. Okay, so listening to the radio station or listening to public radio, for example. So public radio, okay, for example, is a non-excludable good. Okay, you don't need to pay to actually listen to a public radio, right? So over-the-air broadcasts are good examples of public good. Also, we have fireworks displays. Okay, and with fireworks displays, you don't need to actually pay for a fireworks display, especially on July 4th, right? You can actually watch it and don't necessarily need to pay for it, right? So that is what we mean by non-excludable good, and that is what we mean by non-rival good. Okay, and a pure public good, right, is both non-rival and non-excludable. Okay, so a public good, right, is both non-rival and non-excludable. So think of, let's say, a public road, right? Me consuming or me actually using that road doesn't prevent anyone else from using the road, and to some extent the road is actually free. Okay, or the highway is actually free. Okay, so a public highway or public road is an example of a public good. Okay, and I want you guys to think of other examples as well. At this point, I want to talk about a rival good. Okay, so we have rival. Okay, a rival good is any good, right, where me using it prevents other people from using it. Okay, so a rival good is any good where when I consume the good, it prevents other people from consuming the good as well. So for example, if I decide to buy a milkshake for myself, me drinking the milkshake actually prevents someone else from drinking the same milkshake. Okay, or me consuming food, for example, prevents someone else from consuming the food as well. Okay, so that is a rival good. And we have excludable goods. Okay, so guys, this is a bit awkward. Okay, so if I'm making mistakes, please forgive me. It's my first time, right? But I miss you guys still. Okay, right, so excludable good is any good which you actually need to pay to actually use. Okay, it's a good which is not free or non-payers can get access to. Okay, so payers or people actually pay for the good need to basically are the only ones who actually have access to the good. Okay, so payers are the only ones who actually have access to consuming the good. Okay, so that is an excludable good. Okay, So we're gonna do sort of a mini class activity, and or a mini activity. Sorry, keep on forgetting that we don't have class anymore. Well, technically we do have class, right? But it's just remote. But we're just gonna do an activity, and I want you guys to take a look at these and sort of decipher as to whether the following is non-rival. Okay, so take a few moments and just look at this. Okay, so watching the Super Bowl on television, do you think is rival or non-rival? Okay, so watching the Super Bowl on television, is it rival or non-rival? And to actually know the answer to this question, you need to understand what non-rival means, right? And what rival means. Remember, non-rival means that me consuming the good does not prevent someone else from consuming the good. And rival is basically the opposite. Me consuming the good prevents someone else from consuming the good. Okay, so watching the Super Bowl on television is actually non-rival. Okay, me watching the Super Bowl on TV does not prevent someone else from watching the Super Bowl on TV. Okay, so that is non-rival. We have the next one, watching the Super Bowl in person. Okay, is that rival or non-rival? Okay, so I want you to think about this. Okay, so watching the Super Bowl in person, is it rival or non-rival? Okay, what do you think? Okay, so watching the Super Bowl in person is actually rival. Okay, so me actually buying a seat at the Super Bowl prevents someone from also buying a seat at the Super Bowl, because remember, seats at the Super Bowl tend to be limited. Okay, so since it tends to be limited, me purchasing a seat at the Super Bowl prevents someone else from actually watching the Super Bowl, because at some point all the tickets will run out. Okay, so watching the Super Bowl in person tends to be a rival good. Okay, what about watching YouTube at 4 a.m., which is what I'm going to be doing for the most part since I'm self-isolating? Okay, so is it non-rival? Okay, or rival? Okay, right. So watching YouTube at 4 a.m. is non-rival. You watching YouTube at 4 a.m. does not prevent your friend also watching YouTube at 4 a.m. somewhere else, or it doesn't really prevent someone else around the world watching YouTube at 4 a.m. Okay, so that tends to be non-rival. Okay. Right. If you have any questions, remember you can always send me an email. I'm actually going to create a chat room on EC 118 course page. Okay, so you can always chat with me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might probably have. Okay. Okay, so let's just move on and we'll look at public goods and governments. We know pure public goods are provided by governments. Remember, we said pure public goods tend to be non-rival. Okay. And also non-excludable. Okay. Well, the issue with pure public goods is that since it's provided by the government, it's hard for private companies to recover the cost of production, and even to some extent for the government itself to actually recover the cost of production, right? So it actually creates a problem, what we call the free rider problem. Okay, so this is really important to understand, the free rider problem. Okay, and The free rider problem basically says everybody will benefit from using the public good till the value of the good diminishes due to heavy consumption and non-payment. Okay, so everybody basically uses the good, right? They don't actually pay for the good. Okay, they're actually allowed to consume the good as much as possible, right? So you get